Hi everyone, I'm MaryAnn. I'm a visual artist and voice coach from Singapore, currently in Singapore, and welcome to another installment of my weekly vlog series, Live Your Dream. So if you're someone who has a dream and you want to make it come true and you don't know how to get started, how to take action, or you have already started taking action and you are finding that it is so difficult and there's so many struggles because that is a very normal part of the process, this is where I share what I'm learning in my journey as an artist, as a voice coach, as someone who's all about creating a worthy and meaningful purpose for myself with the intention of inspiring, motivating, encouraging you as you go on your journey as well. At the very least, when you watch these videos, you know that you're not alone in this journey because week to week I am here sharing something that I've learned in this journey, in my journey so far. And yeah, if you have questions about this, feel free to ask them in the comments, or you can also directly message me through any one of my social media links which you see in the write-ups attached to these videos. So this past weekend I was assisting at a program with the coaching community that I hang out with, and it's a transformational personal evolution coaching kind of program. And one of the things that the trainer, who is basically the guy who founded the organization and he's my teacher and mentor, he shared something that really struck a chord in me. And what he said was that there's a time crunch for everything. You have to seize the moment to do the things that you want to do. If you don't, the game is over. If you do, the game is also over. And this struck me because he was having this whole conversation around our life being a series of moments, and something along the lines of a lot of times we are looking for the high times in life, right? Because we're human and we want to be happy and we want to feel like our life is worth something and means something and worth and it's beautiful and amazing and all that. So we're always seeking for these high moments in life, but a lot of life is actually kind of mundane and kind of boring and kind of normal or what we would say is a normal, just a normal day out of the ordinary, nothing special. And a lot of times we feel that way. It's because in our day-to-day we are actually working towards something, and that something being your goals, your objectives, whatever it is that you hope for in your life, your dreams, your aspirations. And until we get to that point of succeeding in whatever that thing is, every moment leading up to that is basically kind of meh, or struggling, or dealing with obstacles that show up, dealing with circumstances that kind of throw a dent in your plans, and then you have to figure something else out in order to make sure that you still get to the objective that you want to get to. And it's only when we get to that point where we have succeeded in our striving and in our plans, that is usually when we have a high moment. Or something exciting happens that you did not expect, and that's another high moment in our lives. But otherwise, everything that we do in between these high moments are pretty much our day-to-day lives and our striving and our struggling and trying to figure out how we're going to do this. So the point that I wanted to share today is how it's so important to be present in every single moment of our lives. Because if the high moments are not going to happen all the time, then our life pretty much consists of these, striving moments. And if we're not paying attention to these striving moments, if we're not paying attention to the opportunities that could come our way, that could take us further along and take us closer to the objectives and the dreams and the goals that we have, then we're going to miss out on a lot of things. Just because these day-to-day striving moments are not very exciting doesn't mean that we can be half asleep as we live through them. Doesn't mean that we can go through them another day at the office, clock in, do whatever it is you have to do, and then clock out and go home rot in front of the TV or something, binge watching something. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do that, right? Because there are days sometimes where we're just so tired that it's just whatever, I just want to get through it. But in terms of striving for a higher purpose, in terms of wanting to make the most of our existence here, it may seem like 100 years is a long time. But when you look at the day-to-day, all we have is this moment. because whatever years have passed have already passed. Like, we can look back in terms of our memory. Maybe you have like, home videos of yourself, maybe you have journals and diaries, but at the end of it all, like, we cannot take back those years that have already passed. It's like if you're looking back and going like, oh my gosh, where did all that time go? Like, in a blink of an eye, 10 years have gone by. The reality is that yes, it is a lot of time, but at the same time also it is not a lot of time, because all we have is the moments in our lives. All we have is now, really. And the question then is, are we making the best of this now that we have? Because how we deal with this now that we have right now, how we deal with this striving moment in our lives, how we deal with this struggling moment in our lives, determines the kind of high moments that we're going to have, determines the overall outcome and the overall shape of our lives and the overall painting that we're trying to paint with our lives. And so it's really important to be present in the here and now. And the first step to allowing ourselves to become present in the here and now is understanding and having an awareness around what stops us from being present. So what I realized this weekend is that one of the things that stops me from being present in my life is I have an idea of how I think things should go. I have an idea of the outcomes that I want. I have an idea of, if I were to invest my time in doing this thing, I want a certain outcome. And it's a very normal thing to do that, because as we're humans, right? And we always, of course, want to strive for something better, and we want good outcomes out of the things that we do and out of the resources that we invest in those outcomes. But unfortunately, a lot of things are outside of our control in terms of external circumstances, in terms of other people and having their own decisions, and then it kind of affects us. A lot of things are outside of our control. And the only thing that we can really control ultimately is our choice of how we want to experience the moment. If something doesn't go our way, then do we make the most of that and accept it and just okay, this is what it is and I'm still gonna enjoy it anyway? Or are we gonna be like, oh man, this shit just hit the fan, like, oh, my life sucks? And how we view that really determines how we live our lives, because again, like I said, it's in the day-to-day moments that our lives happens. So if we were to be like mopey about something that didn't go our way, then that also informs how we deal with that moment, and then that moment passes and it's like, what do we do after that? Like, do we want to continue moping about something that didn't go our way, or do we want to make the best out of it? And it's really those little decisions that we make in the moment to moment that inform how our lives play out. So at the end of the day, it still comes back down to our choices. Do we really choose to embrace this moment for what it is? Or do we choose to do something else, or choose something else? Ultimately, there isn't like a right choice or a wrong choice. There isn't like what you should or shouldn't do in terms of forwarding yourself in your life. All that really matters is, can you live with the choices that you've made? And can you live with knowing that you have made the most of every single moment of your life? Or if you choose not to do that, then can you live with not doing that? And I guess what I'm saying ultimately is that it's so important to be present in this moment and present in our lives, because this is all we've got. All we've got is the here and now. So it really comes back down to a choice that we are making in terms of how we want to spend this one moment that we have. And we can choose, of course, to kind of like complain about it and go through the motions of doing whatever undesirable thing has happened to us that we did not expect. Or we can take it in our stride and say, hey, it is still a moment in my life anyway, and I'm just going to make the best out of it. And I'm going to enjoy it, even though it is suffering at times. I'm still going to enjoy it the best that I can. And I'm starting to see that being present is really about that. It's really about taking things in our stride and accepting the reality for what it is, and understanding that there are going to be things that you can't do anything about, and might as well just enjoy it anyway. And the things that we can do something about, then we make a conscious decision to say, I want to change the circumstances in order to set up the next moment in a more advantageous way for myself towards the objective and the dreams that I have. So overall, what I'm seeing is that our life is made up of a series of moments, and these moments, if we don't seize them, if we're not fully present with them, if we're not really making the most out of them, whether they are great moments or not so great moments, if we're not fully living in them, then we are not really fully living our lives. And in order for us to be able to fully embrace the moment and fully live in it, we have to first be able to see what stops us from living in that moment. And I think what's most important of all is that if these mundane, striving, day to day routine, in between high point moments are what our life is going to be made of most of the time, then it's really important then to make the most of them and to live them as though they are the high moments of our lives, and to really make the best out of them, so that when we get to the actual high moments of our lives, it's not the only thing that it's not the only thing that defines our lives, and it's not the only thing that defines how we live our lives, but every single moment of every single day counts for something. And I'm starting to see that when we live our lives in that way, where every single moment is important and being present to every single moment is important, then maybe that is where we find the meaning of life. Maybe that is where we find fulfillment. Maybe that is where purpose and having a higher calling or a higher path, maybe that's where the answers really lie. Not something that is far off in the future, not something that is like overarching that we only see when we look back, but maybe it is really in the magic of every single day, the way we handle these everyday moments, moment to moment, and making the most out of it and being present to everything that's happening in the here and the now. So if you have questions about this, feel free to ask them in the comments, or you can also write to me through any of the links you see in the write-ups attached to these videos. And if you have enjoyed today's video, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and I will see you next week.